Hey class, let's talk about the Aristotelian background. It's going to be really important to understanding what's so radical, what's so important about Descartes. All right, first off, let's talk about the Eucharist. It's a little funny. Did you know that hocus pocus, that phrase, starts as an anti-Catholic slur? Because so it's supposed to happen that when the priest says the words of institution and the bread and wine are transformed into the body and blood of Christ, the words of institution are hoc est corpus mea, right? From Jesus saying, "This is my body." So hoc est corpus sounds like hocus pocus, and it's the priest does a little magic thing and there's a transformation. So Aristotle gives us this metaphysics. Sorry, I'm talking so loud. Aristotle gives us this metaphysics that becomes really important to the Catholic Church in the 12th century to explain. It becomes important to the church because it can explain the possibility of the miracle of the Eucharist. So this becomes kind of mandatory for Catholic philosophers in between the 13th century and the 17th century when Descartes is writing. So Descartes is going to reject this account of material substances, his account of substances in general, and try to present us with something that's trimmed down a bit. So, hylomorphism is a view of substance, a view of what, properly speaking, exists. And any substance, according to this view, is going to be a combination of matter and form. Now, we talked about form a bit in the context of Plato. Aristotle's forms are a little bit different, but a little bit of the same, right? They're still metaphysical. They still give an account of what's real, give an account of what is, but for Aristotle, they don't exist in some heavenly realm. The forms of things, the forms that make things what they are, exist in the substances themselves. So, Plato might say, hey, when you look out and you see a beautiful tree in the yard, it reminds you of the form of beauty itself. Aristotle is going to say, hey, when you look out and you see a beautiful tree, beauty itself is in the tree in some way. And more than that, treeness is in the tree, right? What it is to be a tree, right? That metaphysical concept, that essence is a good word here. Again, I've been thinking about dark crystal a lot, but this is not that kind of essence. This is not just a life force. This is the thing that makes you the kind of thing that you are. So the tree, the arrangement of bits of matter into the form, the shape, the pattern of a tree, that pattern, that form, that essence is a part of the tree, is a part of the substance. Of course, every tree has to be a particular tree. Trees, right, aren't just a pattern in the world, they're a pattern of stuff. All right, so this is just Greek word for matter, Greek word for form. These are Greek, right? My ancient languages are really awful. But yeah, these are Greek, not Latin. Anyway, it's not that important to me. Is that important to you? You can Google. So, matter and form. Everything can be analyzed, taken apart, in terms of matter and form. Matter and form is what makes things what they are. So, I am, you are, if you're watching this, probably, a combination of flesh and bone and other things. It's actually quite complicated. And human nature, right? The pattern of what it is to be human, the essence of what it is to be human, is something I partake of. It's something that belongs to a particular bit of matter and makes a substance, makes a thing. Now, forms have two kinds. Remember I said that for Plato, you look at the tree and you say, it's a beautiful tree, but beauty itself is a form that somehow the sight of the beautiful tree reminds you of, directs you to. Here, there's more than just the essence of what it is to be human, making up a human. It's more than that. We have the form that gives us our essence. For Aristotle, this will be called the substantial form. It's the form that makes you the thing that you are. If that form changes, as that form leaves, you're no longer the thing you were, right? You're going from a human to a corpse. You're no longer the thing that you were. But there's not just those forms, but the form of beauty also. The form of size, forms of quality. So there's all kinds of forms here that make you not only the kind of thing that you are, essence, but also make you, tall or short or light-skinned or dark-skinned. There's all kinds of features that we have that can come and go. Okay, so the essence is the substantial form. It's the form that makes you the kind of thing that you are, where if you lose that thing, you don't exist anymore. The other forms we call accidents, accidental forms. These forms come and go, and you're still you. You're still the same thing, right? I am currently able, as far as my four limbs go. If I live long enough, I won't be able in some ways that I am now, right? So sighted, for instance, I'm living life as a sighted person now, and that's great. But that is something that could go, right? That's a fact about me, a feature of me, a quality that I have, being sighted, that at some point I could lose, and I would still be me. I would still be a human. I would still be Joe, right? So a lot of our forms can come and go and you're still you. But the substantial form, or the essence, when you lose it, you're not there anymore. All right. So Aristotle's hylomorphism gets adopted by Thomas Aquinas and seen as a way to explain the miracle of the Eucharist. The Catholic doctrine of the Eucharist is transubstantiation. If I get these things wrong, I'm sorry. I'm not Catholic. I do care deeply about these sort of things and about beliefs in general. But I'm approaching this as someone who's trying to understand the history of metaphysics, and these doctrines play a role in that here. So that's what I'm after, just so you know. All right, so transubstantiation is the view that, right, once the priest makes the blessing, the bread and wine are transformed into the body and blood of Jesus. So, it's a little alarming if you are someone who's committed to this and committed to other things that Aquinas is committed to, like, for instance, like such as Aquinas on faith and reason requires that mysteries not be impossible. Aquinas will have mysteries, right? He'll have things that let's say faith tells us, scripture, true, whatever. Faith tells us must be true, but that reason can't demonstrate. Those will be the mysteries for Aquinas. But even the mysteries have to be reasonable. If something is contradictory, Aquinas says, well, you have to follow reason too, right? Reason and faith, reason and revelation, according to Aquinas, should not contradict each other. They might tell you different things, they might give you different details, but they should never contradict each other. Aquinas' faith is a reasonable faith. Okay, so transubstantiation sounds to many people like it's impossible. If you take an atomist vision of material things, for instance, how could something look like wine, taste like wine, move like wine, have come from grapes like wine, and not be wine? How could it have all those things and actually be blood, right? An atomist, well, a lot of theories of physical substances, not going to be able to really account for that. So, I mean, an atomist will say that what makes this wine is the structure of the atoms. Atoms are, that's the old joke, never trust an atom, they make up everything, right? Atoms are the building blocks of things. Most atomists are going to say that all the atoms are identical or nearly identical. Some atomists will say there's different kinds. They'll try to give an atomic explanation of elements, for instance. So Margaret Cavendish describes atoms, that there are some that are really pointy atoms, and those are the fire substance, right? The fire elements. Anyway, but the big thing about atomism is that what makes something what it is not the atoms per se, but the structure, right? Atomists are big believers, and this is a really important thing, and something that actually Descartes is going to adopt as well, although not being an atomist. Descartes is fun. Really odd combination of doctrines here, where he's fighting Aristotle in so many ways, but he's on Aristotle's side in a lot of ways too. It's kind of funny, but we'll get into it. Okay, so for an atomist, the structure of the atoms is what makes something what it is. It's the structure of the atoms. If the structure of the atoms is what makes wine wine, it's also what gives wine the qualities that it has. So if structure is all that does that work, we have a structural explanation for what makes wine wine and what gives wine its qualities, those things are identical. What makes wine wine and what gives wine its sweetness or dryness, whatever, it's the same thing. It's the structure of the atoms. So an atomist might look at this doctrine and say, you're telling me that, as, seems reasonable, you're telling me that looks like wine, tastes like wine, I can get drunk off it like wine, it came from grapes like wine, but it's actually Jesus's blood? Not symbolically, but like actually Jesus's blood? There's lots of jokes about cannibalism too, but so this is why Aristotle's philosophy comes to hold hegemony over other metaphysics in Europe for about 300 years, right? From around the time of Aquinas to around the time of Descartes. Because you can't account for this. You can make sense of something looking like wine, tasting like wine, acting like wine, but not being wine. And here's how, right? So what happens is the substantial form is the thing that makes things what it is, right? So this wine nature, I don't know. How do we want to call this? Wine nature, I like that. How about that? The substantial form of wine. But then over here, you've got the accidents, right? Wine can have different shades. Of course, there's, red and white, but even among the reds, there's different shades, right? The color is variable. The color could be different without changing what it is, right? So the color of the wine is an accident. It's not the substantial form that makes it what it is. It's an accident. Similarly, the taste. I've had some bitter wine. I've had some corked wine. I've had some sweet wine, right? You can have a different taste, and it will, right, over the course of its life. A wine will taste differently at different times. And so you can have a different taste and it still be wine. So color, taste, all of these features here that we actually interact with the senses turn out to be accidents, not essential to what makes something wine. So the miracle that happens, again, the idea for Aquinas is that you shouldn't be able to disprove a miracle. You don't have to be able to prove things that are, given to you by faith, but you better not be able to disprove it. If you're an atomist, this doesn't make any sense at all. But Aristotle's metaphysics can make this make some sense. What happens is, by miracle, the accidents of the wine are maintained while the substantial form, that is the metaphysical thing that makes things what they are, the substantial form is replaced with the substantial form of Jesus's soul, Jesus's nature, Jesus's blood, right? So what happens is, by miracle, these metaphysical things that account for the way our senses interact with wine are maintained, while this one that makes it what it is destroyed, swapped out with the substantial form of Jesus's blood. So Aristotle's metaphysics becomes really important to Catholicism because it basically becomes part and parcel of this doctrine. If you reject it, you might as well be rejecting transubstantiation. So in Descartes' day, it was dangerous. It was verboten. It was dangerous to question Aristotle's metaphysics. You were seen as potentially a heretic, and people would get banned and kicked out of their teaching positions. Well, once they caught wind, Descartes' Meditations was banned too, and some Cartesian disciples end up getting sent off to Canada and stuff. It's seen properly as radical and possibly heretical and all this. Descartes himself leaves France for the Netherlands because he feels like he can have more liberty there. All right, another element of Aristotle's metaphysics that Descartes is going to have some problems with, and this is part of Descartes being the this is the scientific revolution Descartes, right? Descartes as father of modern philosophy. That title, I don't know. But Descartes is definitely part of the scientific revolution, not only for rejecting Aristotle's hylomorphism, but also, I feel like I'm yelling, but also for reviewing and simplifying his account of causation. For Aristotle, when we talk about a cause, we're talking about an explanation. We're talking about answers to the question, why, right? Why is this here? Where did this come from? All right, so let's use this wooden pencil as an example. If we want to explain where this pencil came from, Aristotle's going to tell us we need to give 4 explanations, 4 accounts to make sense of this. You're going to explain the pencil by the hylomorphic elements there, right? By the matter and the form that make it what it is. So the pencil is made of wood. It's some particular bit of wood. Now, of course, it's also got the metal, I don't know what pencils are made of. The graphite, right? So you've got the things that the pencil's made of. That's the material cause. So, but those things aren't the pencil by themselves, right? Just saying, oh, well, this pencil exists because of wood is part of the explanation. But of course, it can't be the whole explanation because there's lots of places where there's wood in the world where there's not a pencil, right? So the pencil, the matter, the material the pencil is made of, is part of the cause of the pencil, but it's only part. The very concept, the very essence, the what it is to be, the idea of a pattern, right? It's wood in a certain pattern. If you had the lead on the outside and the wood on the inside, you don't have a pencil anymore. If you have, I don't know. It's got to be in a certain arrangement. There's a certain pattern that makes the thing what it is, that identifies it as the kind of thing. So the formal cause is the essence. It is the substantial form, the pattern that the matter is in that makes it what it is. And if you think of that pattern outside of the material, there you've got an account of what an Aristotelian form is. Okay, now, pencils exist, right? There is such a thing as what it is to be a pencil, right? There's a blueprint of a pencil. There's the material that the pencil's made out of that needs to be put into that blueprint. But there's also the process of producing the pencil. The efficient cause is the work or the energy that goes into bringing something about, right? This is generation. So this is what we typically think of when we think of a cause. We think of the efficient cause. What's the process? What's the work? What's the energy expenditure that brings that about, that brings that thing about? Finally, there's the final cause. The final cause is purpose. The final cause is purpose. Purpose is a little funny. Why do pencils exist? Give an account of pencils. Well, you talk about the wood and the lead that the pencils are made of. You can talk about the pattern that material needs to follow, the essence of a pencil. You can talk about the process of producing that pencil. But Aristotle thinks a proper account of where the pencil comes from needs to talk about the reason why one would produce a pencil, the purpose for there being a pencil. Now, Aristotle is going to, he's got an enchanted world, right? Aristotle's world is full of these metaphysical things that give things purpose. So it's very natural to talk about purposes even in natural bodies for Aristotle, right? He explains some motion in terms of final causes. He's got a theory of the elements, which I'm sure we're familiar with. Oh, you know what? Let's move on there. He's got a theory of the elements. Let me change my board. All right. So Aristotle's view of the causes is related to his understanding of the elements. There are 4 elements: fire, earth, air, and water. And the 4 elements arrange themselves in the world. Now you'll notice Aristotle's world puts earth right at the center, and then you get the sphere of the moon that circles around the earth. Interesting, everything below the sphere of the moon is subject to change. And everything beyond the moon, the only change you get isn't really change, but it's perfectly uniform motion. Uniform motion. It's a changeless world out there. The things that are moving stay moving. Okay, so Aristotle's elements arrange themselves in the world according to where they belong. They kind of want to be where they are. So fire, you light a candle, the flame points up. It's attached to the wick. It can't just break free of the wick, but where does it want to go? It wants to go up. Things that are mostly made of earth want to be in the center of earth. As much as it's within their power, this is well before any conception of gravity, right? What we have is weight. How do you explain weight? Well, it's really by the things like proper place in the world. Things are trying to get where they belong. And things that are mostly made of earth want to be at the center of the earth. So they're going to go as much as they can to the center of the earth. Water belongs on top of the earth. Air goes up as well, tries to be, between the water and the fire, and fire at the end. So we've got purposes. We've got some kind of desire even, explaining what the physical world, this world of changing things, physics is about change, this world of changing things, it's explained in part by like impulses to be where you're supposed to be. So final causes, purpose, explains a lot of things in the physical world for Aristotle. And of course, it's still hard for us to think about the natural world as containing no purposes. It's become more and more well understood that the heart pumping it's not trying to pump your blood, right? We explain what's going on by the energy that's expended, not by purpose, design, desire. So what happens in Descartes, and we see it in Meditation 4 here, the most like traditional religious part of the text, we get rid of, at least in physics, at least in our understanding of the natural world, all of the causes except for efficient causes. Did I tell you Descartes is part of the scientific revolution? We're trying to simplify our understanding of the physical world so that it can be explained in terms of efficient causes. We're also going to simplify our account of what physical things are. We're going to get rid of the hylomorphism in Aristotle and reduce things down. We'll see. We'll see next week what those are reduced down to. In Meditation 5, he gives an account of material substances. So that's coming. Okay, while we got this up here, this is another big bone of contention in this transition from the medieval world to modern Europe. Aristotle is committed to the center of the world and then the outer sphere, the fixed stars. That is the entirety of the natural world. This is the middle. The fixed stars are at the end, are at the outside. Beyond that, there's only imaginary spaces, right? So this is all that exists, and the Earth is right at the beginning. Again, we don't have gravity, we have weight, right? We have things that are mostly made of Earth trying to be at the very middle. Still not flat, still a globe. In fact, a truer globe than the globe we're actually on, because it should be a perfect circle. All these spheres are perfect circles as well. So we already know, of course, I think I've already introduced this a little bit, that before Descartes, we get Galileo, who comes under house arrest, partly for arguing that, hey, this barrier between the world, the unchanging realm beyond the moon and the sublunary realm of change, right? Change here, no change out there, it's gone. Galileo's already challenging this by, identifying mountains on the moon, by arguing that that comet that we see out there, that's not below the moon. Comets had to be below the moon in the day, because they're changed, right? They're changed. So contrary to appearances, people would say, no, it's got to be below the moon, because it's a thing that's changing out there in the sky. Beyond the moon is the realm of course, even before Galileo, Copernicus puts forward a heliocentric model that says that the Earth is moving around the sun. But Copernicus puts that forward as a mathematical model. He says, hey, look, we can simplify our calculations that way. But of course, whatever's actually the case, we don't really know. I'm not going to make any claims about what's actually the case, just about what simplifies the math. But Galileo is well, he hedges a little bit for safety's sake. But Galileo is pretty committed to, no, there's changes beyond the moon. The sun is really the center of the solar system, and all these other things, all these other findings. Galileo's also a delight to read, Galileo. Okay, so that's the picture that Descartes is stepping into and saying, I don't know about this, right? He's got the world at the center of everything, the Earth at the center of everything. Also, homonymy with world here is kind of interesting, because for Aristotle, the whole thing is the world, but also it's kind of, Earth at the center. You could think of Earth as the world, because the world is, Earth and the rings around it. But then when we move forward, we say, oh, well, here's a world, the Earth, and then Mars is another world. And so we sometimes talk about world as planet, and sometimes we talk about world as universe. I think that's because when we move from talking about the world in this Aristotelian sense to talking about Earth as, it makes sense to extend that in either way, to extend world to planet and other planets, or to talk about the whole system of things as the world, the entirety of the natural world as the world, right? So that homonymy, I think, is because we had this system that then broke, right? All right, so Descartes is going to abandon that stuff. He still will stick to the letter of the law. Letter of the law. He will still stick to the letter and say, well, okay, technically, and if you understand my account of motion and rest, technically the sun is at rest. No, the sun is in motion and the Earth is at rest, technically, although the Earth is at rest in a stream, if you will, that carries it around the sun. So he kind of tries to have his cake and eat it too, right? He tries to say, I'm following Galileo and Copernicus here, but also, if you really need me to say that the Earth is still and that the sun is moving, I can do that. I can do that. It's funny how often that kind of thing happens. Hey, if you really need me to say this, I can say this. I think it's partly because theorists understand that their words only have so much power. All right, so Descartes, getting rid of that, getting rid of the difference of the sublunary and the supralunary world. He's reducing causation down to just efficient causes, and he's getting rid of the hylomorphic understanding of natural things. Maybe except for human beings, because we have a soul still. All right.